2026. So what you'd be wondering and asking yourself what ULEAD is, our vision is to be able to provide young people, as I mentioned earlier, with training, with mentorship, and help them access opportunities that will scale them in professional development, will enhance their entrepreneurship skills, and also position them for a lifetime career. And the goal is just to help everyone unleash their potential through these opportunities and become a better community in Africa and in different parts of the world. So as I said, Global Wins by ULEAD is a mentorship platform. We are designed to assist individuals who want to pursue scholarship and careers in different parts of the world. So today's agenda, we welcome you all for this bootcamp. I am glad you took some time to sign up. We had a lot of applications and we were able to only select, I think, 120 of you to be part of this bootcamp. So I trust that you'd use this chance to, for the goodness of your career and your future, because I know there's a lot of people who applied and didn't get it. So I hope it is gonna be worth it for you. And then I'll take you through Chevening Scholarship, and then we will have a guest who will take you through the style writing, how do you need to understand the Chevening essay questions, how you could draft winning essay structures. We'll have a session for question and answers and closing remarks. If I'm speaking too fast, please raise your hand and let me know. I will try and speak slowly, which is something I'm learning. But otherwise, I think we are good.
Did you see
So,
that I raised my hand?
did you?
I did.
You should be used to my speaking right now, except with the exception of Martin. Yeah, so the Chevening Scholarship, as probably you may know or may not know, it's a prestigious UK government scholarship. The main aim is to develop global leaders across the globe. You get full financial support to pursue your master's degree in any UK university. And one of the key criteria is that your master's has to be a 1-year taught master's program. So when you're thinking about, okay, what course do I need to go to? What should I apply about? Just think around a 1-year master's program. So in any aspect, you should think and consider that if you would really want to apply for Chevening Scholarship. But apart from that, Chevening offers you an opportunity to network with different people from different countries, including also an opportunity to experience UK culture. And like most of other scholarship I've come across, you are also encouraged to explore the UK. You are also encouraged to travel. You are also encouraged to take other activities that would grow your network, such as volunteering, working, internship. So there's a lot of freedom and flexibility with the Chevening Scholarship compared to most other scholarship I've come across, which for me, I think that's why I just said I would apply for Chevening. And since 2019, I kept applying for Chevening. Yeah, and finally we're here. And then also it's kind of focused on not only what you're studying, but also enhancing your leadership skills to see how you, after the master's, you will go back home and create an impact in your community by leveraging from the network you've created, the exposure, the knowledge to bring positive impact in your community. When they were giving us a farewell in Tanzania, we had a new ambassador, Miss Young, and she was telling us, oh, we're sending you, you are ambassadors for the Tanzania in the UK. So you are expected through the Chevening Scholarship to be a connection between the UK government and your country. You are expected that everything you learn and when you go back home, what you do would enhance the partnership that UK has with your country in one way or the other. And Chevening is not where you would japa or you would run away. No, through some of the terms, you're supposed to go back home. You're supposed to give back to your community. You're supposed to make sure what you learn and the network you build while you're in the UK benefits your community. So when I left home, they told me the country is sending you. These were my friends, but you kind of know like, okay, It's not just a place where it's not something you use to run or to escape anything from your country. So if you think of Japa, Chevening is not something you should consider. You might just focus on something else. And yeah, so meet someone who is gonna take us to the next session, our guest, who is Mr. Martin. He's a Chevening alumni from London School of Health and something medicine. Martin has been running the Global Wins for some time now. He is an expert in design thinking and with passion around health. He's a 2023-24 scholar, Chevening Scholar Awardee, and who is taking masters in public health and development at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in London. So about other things, I think he would be able to talk about it himself. I would want you to hear him introduce himself, but all I know is that he loves to cook, which is something you can learn when you get to interact with him. He enjoys traveling, and he also likes teaching young people for fun. I found it weird, but I enjoyed him teaching and guiding us through the applications last year, and it brings fruits. And he believed life is by design. So as I welcome Martin, if he has any other thing to share, I will also be on the chat box. If you have questions to ask, I'll be answering on the chat box, and then we'll have the final questions at the end of the session. Martin, karibu. You're welcome. Karibu means you're welcome in Swahili.
Hi everyone. Hi guys. Good afternoon. How are we today? Can we hear me, everyone? If you can hear me, just respond in the chat box. I had to disable the unmute mic option for the participants because there was some noise interference happening in the background. Thank you very much, Maureen. Even though you murdered the name of my school. Wow.
Too long, and I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you could share your screen.
No. You share from your end. Next slide.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So, if you don't already know me by now, maybe I'll ask the feature Nosato to remove you from the group. And that's just on a lighter note, just kidding. Primarily, I will just tell you basically that all you need to know is I've worked in public health for the last 8 years, actually. And particularly design is something I began 1 year into my public health career. I've been doing public health in design. Even though I've ventured into other sectors, but the major sectors I've worked in has been youth employability, public health, and I think the one that I'm considering seeing if it's a mainstream for me is the education part, right? When I say design, I do not mean graphics design. So when I tell people that I do behavior design, they are wondering what exactly I do. They do not necessarily know what I do, right? So I would say this in a single sentence. By design, we are talking about the process of creating, tailoring, ensuring that the programs that are developed, the programs or solutions that we create or roll out for maybe the SDGs, maybe any sector, that they are actually according to the context, according to the needs, according to what they are supposed to solve for, right? If you read the book, Prosperity Paradox, you realize that one of the things that has affected us as a continent in Africa is that we do not just cherry pick, we copycat. We copycat all of the things we find in the Western culture and bring them home. But copycatting doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. But what we do not do is we do not tailor what we want to our context. So that's when 10 years ago in Africa, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation decided that it was going to be good that the development sector moved forward in terms of design. And they found some of us in Nigeria were already working in public health. At the time, I was in WHO in Ogun State. They found some of us in Nigeria who they took and then retrained. And that was how I started going further into design. So from doing that, I'm currently working in London School already. I finished last month and I became a research assistant in my department, and I am doing design for the school at the moment. And so in the last 1 week, I've been super busy. And then FHE had to drag me out here today. He says I have to start the meeting. I said they could start the meeting without me. I'm very much happy and interested in helping you guys. But what I would like you to do is pay attention to the things I'll be sharing with you, right? There are a lot of things that you might not need, but there are things you need. I will show you how. My goal in today's session is to show you that you can do it by yourself, right? You can do it yourself. You can do it if it's simple enough. You can do it if you learn how to do it, right? So let's get into today's session, which is going to walk us through how do we write an essay that would win the competition? How do we put together this structure to see that what we are doing actually works? Next slide, Mo. Before I go straight into this, Maury knows I don't like framework. Osato knows I don't like framework. Those who are around me, they know I don't like frameworks, right? You can go to the next slide. Thank you. They know I do not like framework, but then they said it actually helps people think through what they need to do, right? And that's the reason why we've put up this slide. We put up this slide because if you listen to any video on writing the Chevening Essays that tells you about frameworks, one of the things you would fall into as a trap is to become fixated about the framework, right? So I do not intend to show you that this is the only way to write the Chevening winning essay, but I intend to show you that by thinking through some things, you can give yourself an advantage of having a flow for your thought processes, right? So the frameworks are supposed to guide your thinking. They are not supposed to replace the originality of your thought. So if you go online, you will find people say they are using the CARD framework, CAROD. You go ahead and hear people say they are using CARO framework. You hear people say they use the PCC framework. They tell you all kinds of framework. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the day, you start to struggle. What framework do I use? How do I write my essay? Now, this is what I want you to think about. Whether it's the leadership essay, whether it's the networking essay, whether it's the essays that have to do with your career plan and the study in the UK essay, it all begins with what question you are answering, right? And the best way to start to think about an essay that will be clear and concise is not to just start writing, right? Is to first to think about what you actually intend to write. Now, we did a couple of videos from the last cohort where I said that the prompt you are answering is the most important part. But in addition to that sentence, the second most important part, besides the prompt being the most important part, is the idea that you are trying to communicate. The idea that you're trying to communicate can be broken down with a framework, right? For example, if I'm trying to communicate to you, let's take, for instance, the effect of educational interventions on sexual competence. Please follow through. Just follow the pattern of thought I'm trying to get across. If I want to walk you through the effect of educational interventions on sexual competence, now I will have to first say, what exactly do I intend to communicate? It's simple. I basically want to tell you, is the effect positive or negative? That's the first thought that should be on my mind. I want to aggregate all of the positive, all of the negative findings on educational intervention on sexual competence. I also want to tell you what sexual competence is, right? I want to show you how they are connected. Then I want to compare where it has worked, where it has failed, right? How it can be improved. Now, that particular thought in my mind, I can then bring it out to say, first, before I tell you all of these things or answer all of these questions or communicate all of these ideas in my head, I want to first describe the burden of sexual competence, maybe as it relates to the UK or as it relates to Nigeria, right? How does this make sense? That is the situation. How do we describe the situation? In this particular framework, S is for situation, which is what is the problem? What is the situation? What is the context where it is happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening, right? How many persons are affected, right? For sexual competence, for instance, I have to describe and define sexual competence. But in the situation of an essay, like leadership or networking, you don't have to define leadership and networking, right? Say we bring it to the essay context. Let's leave the more academic context like sexual competence and educational interventions. Let's come to the essay context. The situation for networking would be, they would ask us, how have you built professional relationships, right? How have you built professional relationships? Outline examples of how you have demonstrated professional relationship building skills. Literally speaking, that language that says outline means I need to list out, right, how I have built relationships. I can then say, where would I bring this context? What is the situation I would describe? So I can pick a couple of situations. I can say, when I was in the university, or when I was in leadership. When I was in the university, when I was in leadership, or when I did my master's, right? These could be the situations I would pick. But while I've picked the situation, right, I can say, what message do I want to communicate from the situation? I want to think about that. When I've thought about the situation, I then describe what task did I need to fulfill in that situation, right? What was the objective that we were trying to achieve in that situation? Now, as the research lead for, which organization would I pick? As a research lead for Irimi Company, right? Where I was working on A, B, C, and D for women that were sexually abused, right, by their partners. We had an objective to bring safe spaces for them to share their concerns and get immediate help. As a result of that, this is what happened. But before I begin thinking about the result, how large was the problem? What was the actual burden? So when I think about that, all that comes to mind is in community XYZ, 15 women or 15,000 women are affected by gender-based violence inflicted on them by their partner, right? If I'm talking about vaccination, I can then say gender-based violence has been associated, right, with reduced immunization rate or with reduced coverage of vaccination. My role as a research lead was to find actionable insight, right? And so by creating A, B, C, and D, that is action, this is what I did, this is how I did it, and this is the result. So if you want to write an essay, right, you first, I think the most important thing is to think about, what are you going to communicate? What do you intend to pass across to the people listening to you, right? What do you intend to pass across to the reader? All right. What is the reflection? What is the reflection? What is the reflection, right? The reflection is the same thing as the learning, right? What have I learned from that situation? How has it influenced my future? Whether it's a cover letter I'm writing for a job application, whether it's a description of how I want to talk during an interview, having a framework helps you think, right? But don't get fixated on a framework. That's what I'm trying to get across. As we go forward, I just want you to know that this STAR framework could be very useful to some of you who are struggling to communicate some things across. Alongside this STAR framework, the most important thing you want to describe is the context. What is the problem? What did you do, right? What was the result? Okay, and what is the reflection on the result? So these are the things you want to think about as you move forward. So all through your life, you are going to be forced to think during this bootcamp. This bootcamp would force you to do some thinking and some writing. I I saw last year when we were supporting some of the applicants, Maureen, and a couple of other people that you're currently seeing, right? Some of the essays they wrote initially was far from something that was effective. They already had a framework. But the difference in having this structure is, even though what you are writing does not go across to the reader as important, it first helps you have a structure. When anybody picks up a work that has a structure, the mechanics, the theme, and other things can be edited by those who will be reviewing your essays. We don't want to ask you to send us essays and we get into your essay and it's lacking structure. We cannot tell how you are answering the question. We cannot tell what exactly you did. We cannot even tell what the results are. We are begging for those of you who have not thought through your essays, right? Please think in this direction. Okay, next slide. All right. Now I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, the essays you have written so far, right? Did they answer the question, right? So I'm going to read through the chat box. Maybe I'm going to try to unmute some persons as well who would like to speak. So I want to call on 3 people who have their essays, right? If you already have written a first draft of your essay, can you use the raise hand button? Use the raise hand button, then I will give you permission to unmute. Okay. I'll pick at random 3 out of the 7 people most likely that raised their hand. First, I would pick Oluwatofumi. Oluwatofumi, you can unmute your mic. I'm going to give you the right now. Unmute your mic. Yeah, leave it on this slide, Maureen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, can you tell me which of your essay you are currently very confident about?
I'm confident about the first one, which is Chevening is looking for individuals who will be future leaders or influencers in their home countries. The leadership one, basically.
The leadership essay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, what about leadership are you trying to communicate? Is there a leadership team in your essay? What leadership team are you trying to communicate?
Okay, so I'm just explaining with my essay the situations in which I have come in as a leader and to lead teams, I guess, and also to and I'm also communicating the results that my leadership got for the team and for like the people that are looking at the team, basically.
So when I ask for team, I ask for THEME. Can you share
team.
with me?
Okay, team. Okay.
Yeah. What team was in your essay?
Okay, so I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Like what you mean by what leadership team? Yeah.
So this is it. If 10 persons write about leadership. They'll write about leadership from a different angle, right?
Yeah.
Someone will write about leadership as action, right?
Okay.
Action to improve situation. Someone else will write about leadership as involvement or advocacy, right?
Okay.
Someone else will write about leadership as a path towards solving problems, right?
Okay.
You have to have your angle that you're bringing in, right?
Okay. Yeah. I
Um,
understand now.
so do you have that kind of theme in your essay?
Yes, I do. I try to solve problems with my leadership skills.
Okay, so problem solving is what you are projecting from your leadership
Focus on.
essay.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you have identified problem solving as what you intend to project in your leadership essay. Problem solving in what? Is there a sector towards or where you're solving that problem? Is there a sector or you're just generally talking about problem solving?
So I have instances of me solving problems during my leadership as the vice president of my university, my department in university. I have instances of me solving problems that were faced at work. I have instances of me solving problems that were faced with a foundation that I volunteer with. So yeah.
Now, you still didn't get what I said.
Okay.
What I said is, these problems of leadership you're solving, is there a sector, like say, the health sector, the education sector, the ending child marriage sector, where you're solving those problems? Or is not particular to any of those?
Okay. No, it's not really particular to any of those.
Okay, it's still kind of generic.
Yes.
Generic but contextual to where you did it, right?
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. The next person I'll call on is Victory. Victory, your hand is raised. You can unmute your mic. Then I'll call one more person.
Hey,
Victory, can you hear me?
Please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Please. Okay, all right.
Fantastic. So I want
Good
to ask you,
evening.
which of your essays have you written so far?
My leadership essay, leadership and influence essay.
Okay, let's talk about your influence essay, right?
Sorry,
Is
my
there a
leadership essay. Yeah.
Wait, should I ask about influence or should I ask about leadership? Which one do you want me to ask about? You said leadership and influence.
Leadership.
Okay. Is there a sector where you highlighted that you solved problems?
Yes.
What sector has that been?
Finance. So my theme is on financial inclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There's noise in your background, I am presuming, or something.
No. Is it better?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's better. I think it's wind or something. All right. Financial inclusion for men, for women, for disadvantaged communities, or what is it, or policies?
Okay, so financial inclusion for rural farmers, more specifically in northern Nigeria. So I'd had the opportunity of working directly with them based on the agricultural services that we provide. And so I noticed that they'd had issues with accessing banking services. I'd also noticed that they had issues with paying for loan repayments because that's what my company was into. So I spearheaded the development of a product that solved that issue for the farmers in that location. So I worked with a team, spearheaded.
Sorry, let me mute the other people. I think some people are on mute and it's interfering with what you're saying.
They're at 6:10, they are not yet arrived. So 6:15, I
Okay, Victory, please, you can continue. Is Victory still there? Victory, your mic is muted.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I'm still here. Can you hear me? I've been talking. I
Yeah,
don't know. Okay, so
your
like
mic
I
was
was
muted
saying,
after a while.
okay, thank you. Apologies for that. I was saying that I work with a private company that's into agriculture. And one
Yeah.
of the issues I noticed was that the people, that's farmers in this case, that we deal with had issues of accessing formal banking services. And this affected the company because we had issues with loan repayment and all of that. And it just got worsened by the cash crunch that happened last year and all of that. So I worked with his team because I'm in product. So I spearheaded in partnership with banking services and some financial service provider. I spearheaded the development of a USSD solution that created accounts for over 300,000 farmers. And I was able to, with that solution, I was able to save the company money in terms of loan repayment. Our loan repayment rates improved by about 40%. And it also, when we did an impact report, we could see the improvement in farmers' livelihood and transactions by the reason of that product. So that's one of my leadership.
Thank you very much. Before I pick anyone else, right, I would make some comments. Thank you very much, Victory. The rest of you can keep your hands raised. So now let's follow this train of thought. It is important to understand the Chevening essay questions, right? So important, right? Please, everyone, you can type in the chat box and confirm that you can hear me. I like the examples and the fact that we have teams and all that. It's fantastic. I like it, right? So now, first things first, what exactly is the leadership and influence essay asking for, right? They're asking for two things. You will see that they're asking for leadership and influence. While influence is the consequence, leadership is the cause, all right? While influence is the consequence, leadership is the cause. Now, the thing here is demonstrating leadership or showing how you've demonstrated leadership, right, might be really, really vague unless you show it with things like, let's say, keywords, right? Let's say you have keywords. Victory in her statements mentioned some things. She said that they've done reports, they've done a few things, and these things were measured, right? The reader of your essay wants to see, can I measure this person's skill? Leadership skill is a soft skill. It's not necessarily like a data analysis skill where I will give you Excel to test it. It's going to be based on your words. Leadership flows from keywords, right? So let's say inspiration. Let's pick inspiration as an example. Now, you need to show how you were inspired. Now, what are the keywords that are related to leadership? How you were inspired. Leadership also is very much affected by organization and self-management, right? So whether it's inspiration or vision, so you want to show this in your essay. How was I inspired, right? How did I become visionary? In fact, how did I organize my inspiration or my vision, as scattered as it might be? These are the kind of thinking that must go into the essay. So whatever you are saying in the keywords, right, must, I said, they must show your ability to be inspired, to be visionary, right? To guide. I think guidance is a very strong keyword, right? I think we can even try this. So let's do a random dump in the chat box of keywords that describe leadership that your essay should demonstrate. When we say demonstrate, put in the chat box keywords that demonstrate, all right? Keywords that you can use to demonstrate leadership. Put in the keywords. I'm seeing impact. I'm seeing impacted, oversaw. Problem solving. Keep going, keep going. All right, interesting, interesting. Keep going. Looking at the chat box. Chat box is looking interesting. Influence. Keep going. Taking responsibility, change, goal setting, positive impact, task allocation, resilience. So now you see these words that you are dropping here. These words, they have to show in your essay, right? My screen is right here. You guys are right here. Now, these keywords have to show in your essay. Optimized, responsibility, manage, problem solving, result oriented. Yes, they have to show in your responsibility and accountability. Fantastic. They have to show in your essay. Consistency. It has to show in the essay. Okay. Now, demonstrating leadership has to be clear. Now, let's say I bring an example into my essay. The example I'm bringing into my essay, let me bring secondary school. This has really caused a lot of issues. Secondary school. Should I use examples from when I was in secondary school? Should I use examples from when I was in the university? Right? I'm going to give you guys an example, right? If I see leadership as a journey, which I do personally on a personal basis, I see leadership as a journey, right? So if I see it as a journey, and that is part of my topic sentence, I need to show how that journey has been for me, right? Using timelines, because a journey can be, in short, a journey can only be communicated with what? Timelines. So if I see leadership as a journey, then I should emphasize timelines. So the first thing I should put in my essay is to say, in 2017, in 2015, right? And then the next thing I want to say is, while I build on the timelines, I'm also sure of the impact that comes from each of these time frames. For example, I can say between December 2019 and June 2020, right? I led, right? So all of those things will have to come into it. I then have to think of the STAR approach. So remember the S. So let me pick an example that I can randomly dictate. Where was I in secondary school? Okay. And my leadership journey started back in secondary school, where I was the senior prefect in my final year, during which I played key leadership roles. One of the most significant of these was, what did I do? Was teaching JAM and WAEC lectures, right? Was teaching JAM and WAEC lectures to what? To my classmates who were interested in science courses. I regularly organized, right? So at this point, I regularly organized and executed tutorials for junior students preparing for WAEC or maybe JSS3 exam, etc., right? As a result of that organization, let's say my classmates or my classmates at the time, they drew inspiration from me to study for their exam, right? Maybe I can then say, in fact, who did I inspire? Let's say, in fact, one of them decided to become a medical doctor or as a microbiologist because of that particular thing, right? And then I say, I'm going to say, I taught him, right, key topics in physics, like some key topics in physics, mechanics. Maybe we used Neco and Parker back then. We did mechanics. We talked about momentum. We were talking about gravitational force and how it all correlates and the formulas, right? So I taught him many topics in physics, maybe many topics in organic chemistry, and then I inspired him to become a doctor. That is a journey, because I said my leadership journey started back, right? maybe in secondary school. And that is a journey, that's a situation, right? And I organized, that's an action. Then, what did I say again? I organized tutorial classes for junior, blah, 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 that had an effect on someone, inspiring them to become a medical doctor. That is the result, right? And the learning I got from that is, not only have I inspired him to become a doctor, I've also inspired him to carry on the legacy of teaching others as well, right? See, as trivial as this example might sound, you would see clear structure in it. So for each thing I am saying, it must be complete. If the next thing I want to do, because I already begun with saying that, what have I begun with saying? That leadership is a journey. Then the next thing I want to do is to say that in 2015, right, I worked briefly. Maybe I was just doing an internship. So maybe it's an internship, but I don't want to call it an internship, right? I don't want to call it an internship, or maybe it's a practicum. I don't want to call it a practicum. I would say I worked briefly with a digital health startup. What were they at that time? Let's say they were, I'm going to use a falsified name. Let's call them EcoBata, right? Now, what I did for them is I led their design strategy and user engagement, and I guided the entire team. I think at the time they were 5. I guided the entire team of 5. How did I guide them? I guided them through co-creation workshops and blah, blah, blah sessions, right? To create content strategies and prototype buckets for rolling out maybe 1 or 2 of their products, which now saw over 10% increase, 5% increase, 300% increase or engagements with their website or their telemedicine platform. That is a short and relevant example. In short, I can write that in 3 sentences, really, right? I can write that in 3 sentences. But you see, the quality of thought that is put into answering the question determines the quality of output that you bring. So whether it's a short example, right? Dana, do you want to unmute your mic and speak so I can understand what you're asking? Dana, you typed in the chat box. Can you unmute your mic and speak before we proceed?
It's Dana, sorry. But
okay.
It's usually pronounced like that. But I think that I need to understand the whole STAR method, because I didn't get the point. For example, I am really confused about the S, because it describes the situation, but the situation is not the context. It is not the context, right? Or is it?
The situation can include the context.
But maybe it's the problematic that we can solve.
Is it what?
The problematic that we can solve. For example, I don't know if maybe I am trying to say that I found a legal term, for example, but that is the result. What I am trying to say is that I am not getting the point to describe the situation at the beginning of my essays of the so maybe, well, we are going to have more capacitation with the STAR method in the future.
Yes.
I have the example. Okay, yeah. I have my examples, but I couldn't done the, or I think that I couldn't done the STAR method as well.
Okay, that's fine. So we'll have more examples as we proceed, actually, right? I'm just thinking through and talking you guys through how these things can be demonstrated. Does that make sense?
Perfect, thank you.
Great. So I am just to build from there. Please, if you are listening to me, I hope you listen completely. I did not say that you should go back to secondary school. I didn't say you should use secondary school examples. Don't try it, right? Don't try it when you have more professional examples to give. I went back in time, right, just to demonstrate something. It's an example. It is important that you find relevant example with what you want to communicate. I want to communicate that leadership is a journey, all right? So if you have no example from secondary school, you don't need it, right? The only way I'm using something from secondary school in the context I used it is that it affected something in the present. I mean, that guy calls me today and still says, oh, thank you for inspiring me to become a doctor, blah, 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 right? That's the only way it is relevant. No previous example that has no future or current relevance is required in your essay, right? Do you get it, Nomi? Yes, you can actually start your example from businesses.
Yes,
right?
yes, I do.
Fantastic. Now,
Thank you.
one more thought towards demonstration of leadership. Now, and then we'll move forward. Let's say I was working in supply chain, right? That's focused in health. Now, I have talked about secondary school. Maybe I was trying to talk about 2015 when I helped a startup. And then maybe I now talk between 2017 to 2020 where I worked somewhere. And then I want to now talk about my current life or my current life. Then I can then say, if I was writing the essay today, this is kind of example I will give. I can then say, I'm currently working for the London School of Health and Tropical Medicine, right? As a research lead and maternal health, maybe supply chain consultant on a 2-year project, on a 4-year project, right? Funded by Gates Foundation to model the economic impact of climate change on maternal, neonatal, and child health globally using the Markov model. That is the situation. What I just said is the situation. Then I can then say, in this role, right, I systematically review the body of evidence for the team. I lead the project management aspects of the meeting, right? And what else do I do? I summarize my results into epidemiological evidence that is presented maybe to stakeholders, blah, 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 and then maybe produce like journals and papers or white papers to inform events like what? The COP29, right? The COP29, right? Or the G20, right? Now, if that's the example I want to give, I should give it completely. And the idea is whatever I'm saying should be direct. Someone is asking in the chat box, is it proper to mention names of people in your essay? Right. I really do not think that your essay should be all over the place. I'm of the opinion that if you're writing a leadership essay, you necessarily do not need to mention anybody's name. You just have to show leadership. I can write my essay without calling anybody's name, but I can call the name of the companies. I can state the name of the project. I can state where they happened. I can state where the results they had, right? So, but when it comes to like your networking, you can mention names. So leadership does not require names. It doesn't really require names. You don't necessarily need names to be in it, right? You just need to say how you demonstrated leadership, whether you taught lectures, whether you organized sessions, whether you provided virtual consultancy for people, you engaged, blah, blah, you guided, what other keywords did you guys use? So these are the things, right? I would respond to questions later on, but I'm trying to help you guys understand how do we demonstrate leadership? The first thing that we want to remember is you want to use keywords to demonstrate leadership. You want to use examples that are clear, and you want to connect them across a period of time, right? If you do these 3 things, you have a strong leadership essay. Your leadership essays must be demonstrated by keywords, relevant examples, And there should be a connection between the period of time that you're describing when you mention time, right? So having said this, I'll move forward. Now, the next essay is networking. They're asking you, how have you maintained relationship, right? Here, they're asking for relationship skills, which you already know. Do you make phone calls? Sorry, who is this person whose mic is unmuted? Michael. Okay. Now, do you make phone calls? Do you use emails? What exactly do you do, right? I would have loved to think through an example, but my brain needs glucose. So would not think through an example for that. What are your short-term, mid-term, long-term goals, right? Are they specific? Are they measurable? Are they actionable? Are they realistic? Are they time-bound? You want to think through that as well. Why do you want to study in the UK? What courses have you chosen, and why did you choose the schools where you want to study, right? If you go online, if you search for resources, you will find people will say things like, you should talk about why you want to visit the Tower of Babel that is in the UK. The Tower of Babel is not in the UK. Tower of Babel is not anywhere. I'm just using that. You talk about why you want to visit the Tower of Babel, you should talk about this. Now, what you need to understand from this book is there is no hard or fast track rule. That somebody made that statement doesn't mean that's how you should write yours. Okay? That somebody made that statement doesn't mean that is how you should write yours. That you should describe that you want to visit Arsenal. No. See, what must be demonstrated in your essay is that you have done a thorough check of why you are studying in the UK, why that is the next point in your life, why that is the most important decision you need to make now, right? Why you chose the course that you chose. See, it is better to be more specific than to write a lot of inspiring things, right? I read, I'm currently reading some people's essay who are actually trying to apply this year, and they applied last year. And I'm seeing that there is a consistency in their examples, which is a good thing. But this is the information that I always share with them. I always tell them that
This is not Pabo. Pabo is...
I always tell them that it's important to, in your essays, it is not whether you wrote in such a way that you are trying to emotionally get the people to be on your side. It's as important as the thing you are saying, is it clear? The thing you are saying, is it real? The thing you are saying, can it be understood? And does it answer the question? Now, we gave you the STAR framework, right? The situation, the task, the action, the result, and your learnings to help you think through each example that you will give. If you are giving 3 examples, help the reader to know what the situation was, what the task was, right? What the actions you took were, what the result is as well. Now, if you're giving 2 examples, it should show. If you're giving 3 examples, you're giving 2 major example, 1 small example, or 3 major example, 1 3-sentence example within the 500 words. It should be clear. It should be specific. Let it answer the question. Right? These are the things you need to think about. So that's going to be the focus of this bootcamp. This bootcamp is to help you refine your essay primarily, because the only thing standing between you and the interview, right, is your essay. It's not even the person reading it. It is actually your essay. It's actually your essay. Sometimes some people write so well, and then when they get to the interview, they realize that the essay looks too good to be true. In short, the essay is better communicated than the person's expression of thought. Right? This is why we believe that while you write a good essay and a strong essay, global wins also help to build a profile, right? This is your leadership you want to demonstrate. This is your networking you want to demonstrate. This career plan you are saying you have and these courses you have chosen, does it fit your profile? Does it fit the problem you want to solve for your country, right? That is one step further for us. We believe that the profile of the applicant, right, It doesn't have to be a profile that has raised $10 million, has worked overseas, but it has to be a profile that demonstrates the potential to be a future leader. If you're, see, that is the barest minimum for winning the Chevening Scholarship. If your profile, remember I did not say your essay, if your profile, which is a combination of your essays, your resume, right, and the examples you gave or whatever you filled into the application matches up with your interview, if your profile can have these things, your chances or your odds increase, right? I think they triple, depending on you. Having said this, I believe we've given an overview of the approach and understanding of the question, but this is basically an introduction. We're going to go deeper than this. So most of you who are currently on this call, doing several activities at once, that's the best recipe for failing and getting nothing out of this session. These are sessions you have to sit down at home for and write and walk along the process. Because when the preliminary reviewers are going through your essays, I don't ask them to send me essays that have no potential. The only essays that get to me are essays that demonstrate potential. I cannot sit down and repeat, right, the reading of essays that show no potential or inclination for anything. So you have to put in the work. Please, I beg you. All right. Next slide. Okay. So, specifically, some of these questions have been addressed, right? But we're going to say it simply again. Whether you are capturing the attention of your reader with 70 words or 50 words or 3 sentences or 1 sentence, it should be brief. The key word in the introduction is a brief introduction. Please, the introduction should not be a definition. Don't go and be defining leadership. In short, if anybody defines leadership in their essay, don't go and define leadership. Don't go and be defining networking. Don't go and be doing that. Okay, all right. I once was told by my mother that he who bites his hand and looks back is the leader that stays in front and stays behind. You have wasted words. You need to go straight into leadership. You need to go straight into leadership, all right? You need to go straight. Now, follow an approach. Whatever approach you choose, whether it's style approach, it should have a structure. So that's what we're trying to say. Let there be a structure. Whether it's a context or the action and the result, let there be a context. Whether you're using examples, the examples should be relevant. Relevant is the key word. Is it important? Does it speak to the question asked, right? If by today, most of you on this call do not have a clear list of your achievements in the last 5 years, I think if HE and Osato have activities for you to go through, you need to be more specific about your achievements in this day and time, right? I am very aware that there are a lot of noisemakers out there, but you, for the sake of yourself, have to have your internal reservoir or your internal storehouse of relevant example. If you did an internship for 2 months, what was the result? If you did an internship for 6 months, what did it give you? If you worked for 6 months, what did you get? What did that result in? See, what specific achievement did you have? I know it's easy. In a world where anybody wakes up and the first thing I wake up and I see is I'm excited to announce that I'm now the technical assistant in the dog and cat industry.com. I want to thank the Almighty God and use the occasion to say that persistence and consistency is a highlight of greatness. So wherever you are, they will not post a selfie. Wherever you are out there and you're going through a time of rejection, know that if I can do it, you can do it too. So point is, it is great, right? but focus more. People who are actually doing the real work, right? They seldomly have the time to put these things out there. But we are not talking about putting it out there now. We're talking about putting relevant achievements in your essays, right? It shows your learning and it shows your growth, right? I was speaking with a friend and colleague that we work together on several projects. We were speaking about a project that we just concluded. It's about, it's a 3-year project about testing. So when there's something called sepsis, based on how a woman delivers in a health facility, there are administrative care that the clinicians administer. So we've been trying to evaluate the last 3 years how these different treatment processes lead to complicated interventions, right? And we just finished a major phase. We were talking and she said that she was working on something else and this was the learning that she got. And then jokingly, what we're trying to do was to connect one project to the other. We were asking, how does this lead to the next project? How does this lead to the next outcome, right? How does this conclusion of this phase of my life lead to the next phase? Overall, there must be connections for your learning and growth. See, it doesn't have to be posted online. It has to be documented, whether in your Word document, in your Google Keep, in your notepad, in your whatever pad. Just have a list. When I served in A, B, C, and D, I did D, S, Y, Ox, right? I worked with this and this person. It helps you, right? Whether you're going to apply for Chevening, you're going to apply for anything, it helps you, right? And now, I think the last thing here is your future goals. You see, these are your future goals that we're talking about. Some people are not sure what they want out of life. Not everyone is sure. In short, even those people who appear to be sure are really not so sure, right? But this is the point. One thing you have gotten is time to always reflect on whatever you want in the future. But for Chevening will not wait for you to be reflecting on what you want in the future. They will want people who have reflected on what they want in the future, even though they don't have 100% certainty, but they do know that these things they are convinced about. Do you know that Maureen on this call, Maureen that's anchoring today's session, she applied 5 times for the Chevening scholarship? Maureen, what are your future plans?
Why do you like to put me on the spotlight?
What are your future plans? In one sentence, what are your future plans? Yeah, a scholar now. Let's see what you wrote.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, as a scholar or a future planners who? Because every other day is my
Future plans connected to your scholarship.
Okay, I really look forward to leverage on the Chevening network.
Yeah, I'm not writing an essay right now. I hope you know.
Well, it's an essay thing, so I should say I really look forward to support more business in Tanzania, especially small businesses, to become sustainable, and that is in relation to the course I'm studying or what I applied to study. It's Masters of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. The little bit of challenges I've seen during my work as I support startups, and my courses really align with how I would get to learn different solutions that I would implement, but also mostly I also look forward to leverage on the network in the UK to fundraise for startups in Tanzania. Well, I think also that's technical for essays, but that's something you should kind of highlight in a way.
So she illustrated, or she said future plan is the support of small startups, right? And then she said that that is what she has been doing, right? So after your master's, is that what you want to still continue doing?
Yes.
Midterm,
Yeah, midterm.
long term?
Intervention on policies and contribution to what should I say? Yeah, saying policies and infrastructure that support growth of businesses.
See, the point here is this. Even though Maureen did not say policy, right? There should be a consistency in what you want to do, right? If you're always jumping from one place to another, because maybe you're looking for where there is more income, because maybe you're looking for where there is more money, that's fine. But with these essays, you need to stand in one place. You need to stay one place. You have been jumping around for too long. You want to be in climate change. You want to be in public health. You want to be in business support. You want to be in supply chain management. You can't be in all of these places. Some of you have examples in several things, right? But you will be needing to streamline these things for the sake of this application, right? You would have other applications that you might make that would require your multivariated example. But if I see someone with multi-variations or multiple interests, it shows me that this person still doesn't have clarity, right? Please get clear as we move forward. Now, all of the things you'll be writing, Chevening will want to see how they connect to them, right? It's important. Now, recent essays we've been reviewing so far, so I can talk about this using a collective experience. Recent essays we'll be reviewing, right, is people say in their essays, we advise people to say in their essays that at the end of it, they should say how the Chevening Scholarship would help their leadership, or being part of the network will help them in their networking, or how it will help them study the courses. Now, this is it. Do you know, caveat, non-public information, caveat and simple information. Do you know that that particular line doesn't have to appear in all your essays? Yeah. I know we put it on the screen. I know it's right here. See, that particular line does not have to appear in all your essays. Tying everything back to Chevening does not have to appear in all your essays. That's the actual truth, right? It just has to be connected. Remember, the 4 essays will be reviewed as one document, right? The 4 essays have to be reviewed as one document. The single grading question is this. Did this person show how the Chevening blah, blah, blah would apply in their future? So you need to see your essay as part 1, part B, part C, part D of a holistic thing. So your leadership is at the beginning, the networking is in the middle, study in the UK is right, second to the end, and then you have like the career at the end. So if I'm reading a person's essay, when they print out your essay from the system, it's a single PDF having the prompts at the top, right? So when they print out these essays, and they're reading, they want to be able to see at one point, all right, at what point did this person show, right, show that this thing will be important in their future. It doesn't have to be at all points. It will be too repetitive. Most people will fall into the trap of this. So I'm saying it here again, because you are here. If this was a generic video, I would say it once, but this is internal. So I'm saying to those of you on this call, you do not have to put the Chevening Scholarship will help my leadership, the Chevening Scholarship will help my networking, the Chevening Scholarship will help my study, the Chevening Scholarship will help my... It just has to be somewhere, right? Right? I've said that, and I know I just ruined some people's essay, but I shall have said what I said. Moving on, next slide. Okay. Now, I would just speak to 2 things on this slide so that we can have room for questions and conversations and go into other things. If you like, don't stick to the word limit. Write 600 words, right? Like I did when I submitted a document. I had prepared a document, I had written and written. I was doing a cost effectiveness analysis for a project. I prepared a document and written and written. I had written, I think I had written 3,000 words in that document. And then I was so tired that night that I forgot that the edited version, I did not save it. There was no auto-save feature that day because I was trying to reduce the processes I was running at the same time. So I just continued. And the following day, I wanted to check whether I had gotten the short version of what I wanted. And then I realized that I'd exceeded the word limit and that was what I sent with all my raw thoughts, right? Now, it wasn't unedited or it had typos or anything, right? It just exceeded the word limit. Now, it wasn't something that was going to be penalized like your essays will be. It just exceeded the word limit, like I said. Now, the point I'm making here is 500 words is a lot of words, right? But in that lot of words, you have the chance to say a lot of things. But what you need to say is not everything. You need to say the best things that connect with what you want to portray, right? How do I reduce that? It's now up to your planning. Essays, you must have an essay plan. And the reason we have given you these slides today is so that you can have an essay plan. You must have an essay plan, right? An essay plan in such a way that even though you are writing your essays, you must go back each day to read it. What exactly is this essay saying right now? How many words have I used in this example? Can I make this shorter? Right? That's when you already have your first draft, right? Such that what I am saying must be clear, not all over the place. Not all over the place. Not all over the place. You must reflect, right? Your reflections will definitely show when you talk about your career. Your reflections will definitely show in your networking. Your reflections will definitely show in your study in the UKSA. That is where your reflections are most important. The reason I say this is this. Most people will do research. We will tell you, if it would make you guys research your schools. Osato will make you guys search for your schools. But the most important information, right? People think that sentences and summaries are the same thing. When I tell people synthesize the information you got when you did your research and communicate it, what they do is summarize, not necessarily synthesize, right? There's a difference between information sentences and then summaries, right? Don't go online and find that a university has this ranking, has that ranking, and then you copy it, right? And summarize it into 2 sentences and put there. That is not sentences. That is a summary. That is a summary. Are we listening, everyone? Are we still here? Please let me know if you're still here. So, I will say this. The values of networking, the values of impact and leadership, right, should be communicated as you are describing the sentences of your information. Now, the only place where I can give this example is, I think I can use a study in the UK example. Next slide, Maureen. Before we start to talk about this, I'm going to give like a short example, right, of how we could think through synthesizing the things that we want to say in our study in the UK. So let's say, for example, that I found that my school, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, they rank number 3 in the Shanghai rankings. They are number 1 in the UK for public health, blah, blah, blah. They are my first choice. I want to do public health with development, and that's what I want to do afterwards, after my master's is over. right? I have this bit of information. I also know that Chevening values leadership, right? Chevening values leadership and community building. How do I synthesize these two separate information into my essay? Now, what I could say is the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, right, is known for training global leaders in public health or leaders in global health, right? Through their international collaboration programs, with various projects deployed across 13 different centers, like evaluation for public health intervention, maternal, adolescent, reproductive, and child health center, right? I chose this because I would like to work on this as it connects to this. You will not find, like I said, ranking in my essay, but you will find evidence of extensive research in what I'm communicating, right? I have checked and I have seen that it ranks, right? But then I am showing in it that, see, I know they do this. They value intensive research. In short, they create the most systemized or systematic reviews that have been published, blah, 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 right? And this is a skill I would like to learn because I also intend to build a community of experts around maybe economic evaluation, as it were, right? What am I trying to say? Information synthesis and summary is not the same. They are not the same. And this must be shown in essays that require extensive research. And the only essay that requires extensive research here is your study in the UK essay. The study in the UK essay must show extensive research. If you go on and on with ranking, all your essays will be like the same. In short, they will know that you have been listening to all the YouTube videos. Do you understand? Are we still here? You know that I've been listening to all the YouTube videos. They will know. That's it, right? But if you find someone who has taken this information, absorbed this information, and has translated this information and connected it with their goals, then you say, this one is a potential future leader. Let's invite him for interview. Come and eat with the elders. Come 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, with these few points of mine, I welcome you again to the Chevening Bootcamp Cohort 2. It's going to be an amazing journey. It's going to be intense, but we are here to help you refine. In short, we are here because of you, right? Ask your hard questions. Let's have comments and questions at this time. So everyone and anyone, feel free. I think we still have some people whose hands are raised. So we can pick comments and we can pick questions. Any comments and any sessions or whatever. So far, so good. Before I hand over to, I think Ifechi. Okay, I'll try and respond to as much questions as I can. Let me see if I can open the chat box. Does innovation and entrepreneurship courses get funding? Maureen, what are you studying? Please tell them what you are studying again.
Masters in Entrepreneurship and Innovation.
Fantastic. Shaliza, innovation and entrepreneurship courses, they get funding, okay? That's what she's studying now. That's the exact same thing that, what's her name? The other lady, Patience, is studying as well. Yeah. So I think for fun, right? I think for fun, I at one point, that was part of the course I wanted to study, innovation and entrepreneurship. But if I do that, if I start a company, I'll just be giving out everything for free. You just hear that I've sold I just dashed the company out as a good Samaritan.
So you acknowledge it. Then the person also recognizes that you did not intend for their fault.
Okay. So sorry. William, can you mute your mic? There is noise in your background. So let's take questions. Michael, you can ask your question, and then Gloria, you can ask a question. Okay, Michael, ask your question, and Damilola, you ask your question. I see your hand is raised.
All right, then.
Michael, you can mute your mic.
Please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. So thank you very much for the wonderful session. I was just going to ask questions concerning one very important thing you mentioned. You highlighted the fact that, and that's particularly speaks to me, how that we should not be everywhere, right? So yeah, I'm currently having two concerns now because in my essay, right, not that I'm everywhere, the focus is really impacting humanity in aspect of education, right? Which in the long run, I will eventually go into the academia. But before that, there's a problem I've highlighted, which I believe I would solve by garnering relevant experience. I mean, I've highlighted the program in the problem in academia now. So I want to now, I'm not narrating that, oh, for me to be able to solve that problem in academia, I need some relevant experience in practice now, right? I mean, in practice now, in the finance space now, so that in the long run, I'll be able to address that issue I want to address in the academia, right? So now it means that basically I'm kind of I don't want to use the word scattered, but then I'm kind of like everywhere in two things now. There's academia and then the aspect of the financial sector as well. So that means all of my essays have been centering around impacting humanity area of education and then garnering experience in the finance sector to be able to like achieve that long-term goal. So my question here is does that not like reflect that I'm being scattered that way? Like I'm not being focused, I'm not being specific. The fact that because you emphasize the fact that we are everything has to link and then it has to like being on ones and not be scattered. So I'm saying that me wanting to pursue those two things, does that mean that I'm being scattered?
Okay, so let's highlight what exactly those two things are, and let's see if they are connected. What's the first thing?
All right, so the first thing is the fact, the long-term thing is the fact that, in the long term, solving, joining academia, really impacting humanity in the area of education, and then that's in eventually joining to be able to achieve that, I will eventually join the academia. That's in the long term.
Okay, thank you. Number two.
And to be able to now do that, yeah, the second, that's to be able to now do that, I intend to join the finance sector, specifically the area of venture capital, to be able to address, to be able to build some certain expertise, practical expertise that will help me to be able to like solve the problem I want to solve in academia.
So what problem are you currently solving now? Let's talk about the current.
Okay, so currently now I've been like impacting humanity, like solving the problem of like the fact that people that don't have access to opportunities like teaching, really training and finance students, finance undergraduates, and people that are writing professional exam as well, right? So the fact that also because being the fact that in federal university really there's this problem on the fact that most students do not, because of the size of the classes, most students tend not to understand what they are being taught.
So currently you are helping students.
Yes.
Why are you imparting? Why not saying imparting humanity? Imparting humanity. All these people.
That's because that's my team actually. So I guess I'm just used to that word already.
Okay, well done. Imparting humanity. Anyway, so see, there is long-term, mid-term. Of course, you know that there is like short-term. In all these things, you still need to be clear what is happening when, right? If you're able to share with through your essays what is happening when, you would not necessarily have a problem. Your problem would arise, a very big problem is going to arise if all the examples that you are highlighting in your essay are showing that you are in educational access, right? That you are improving access in disadvantaged communities, or supporting young people to maybe optimizing academic performance, or you are reimagining the future of education. I know you like keywords, right? So if the tagline for you is reimagining the future of education, which is what would education look like in 2040, right? And you would long to join academia in the long term, right? But right now, you want to learn what exactly it takes to run an effective educational design process. That is connected. If you want to learn what exactly it takes to build a functional educational business, that is relevant, right? If you want to learn what exactly it takes to build public health education, that is also relevant. Like I said, can you make the connection between 1 and 2? So you would have to think personally about the pro and the cons of how you would connect 1 and 2. So that is what you need to do. All right? Think about that. The next.
Okay, so a final question on that. Can I quickly ask?
No, I will have to ask someone else. You know, you can't take your time.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate
it. Okay.
Damilola, I'm here.
Damilola, okay, go.
Okay, good evening. So my question is actually very personal, and the question is, how do I rewrite a winning essay? And I would explain. So the essays I wrote last year got me to the interview stage this year, but unfortunately for me, I wasn't selected. And I've been told that I can't use the same essay from last year to reapply. However, my career plans, my university options, studying in the UK, and where I want to study in the UK, that's still the same. Though I have new leadership experiences between last year and now, I have new networking experiences. But I'm scared, like I'm really, really scared that if I now add all this new leadership and networking experience, I might destroy my perfectly written essay. And I said that because when you were explaining, when you were presenting earlier, you said that one of the ways to write our leadership essays, maybe to tell a chronological journey of how our leadership how we've been as a leader. And that was what I did my leadership essay from when I was in university to my first professional work in the film industry, to when I first produced my own film. So I'm scared that if I now add this new example of, I will just scatter these 3 examples. Same with my networking skill experiences. If I add my new networks, what if they're not as strong as the previous networks that I used as examples? So I'm it's been like a fight in my head this past 1 month. What do I do? How do I structure this? How do I make it better? So that's my question.
Thank you for your question.
Maybe I should pick it from you, Martin, on that.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, just as Martin said, I think I've been applied for Chevening since 2019 here and there. I'm not sure if it's Nigeria that you guys are not supposed to repeat your essays. But one thing I did for the 4 times I applied, the 3 times the schools were the same. My course that I wanted to do was the same. The only thing is that I needed to probably update my experience because I think I moved jobs twice. I also needed to update to go through my essays and look at what have I done in a period of that year that probably I didn't get the scholarship, and how would that or what that has happened through that would probably elevate my essays this year. So maybe last year when you're applying, you answered a question in leadership and you had an example about something, but maybe after losing the scholarship in this one whole year, you've experienced another maybe leadership impact that you've done that probably could override the one you wrote last year. So when you're reviewing your essays, you still stick to the same course you want to do, maybe the same universities, but you could use an example or a valid example of what happened maybe last year that overrides what you wrote the past year. Or even the number of impacts. Maybe when you're applying last year, you probably you had impact in maybe 200 youth in education, you're able maybe, and then this year when you combine the impact, it's 500. So you still need to update that. So I think it's not exactly starting afresh or changing your essays per se, but look into the weight of what has happened in this period of 1 year and how could that elevate one or two of the essays, like there's some of the essays would change, not exactly change, but be like an update or something.
Okay, thank you, Maureen, for saying that. So all you have to do is not disrupt your entire essay, like Maureen has said. Just make updates. It's always good to show how you've progressed and learned, right? You get. So it can be in one part of the essay, in all parts of the essay. It depends on where you want to move things around, but definitely there has to be new thinking. And people should not, so for everyone who applied before, who got to the interview but did not get selected, and you're now considering, should I throw away my old essay or should I use my old essay? This is it. You have made progress between when you wrote that essay and where you are now. So those changes must be effected in the essay, right? Maybe you build new networks, exactly. Those changes should be effected, right? There should be some updates. Okay? Please think around letting go of that old idea of not editing the essay or submitting just like that, right? Don't be scared. Think about new ideas. So if you are writing that essay now, if you are writing you as right now, cover that old essay and try to write out new things, new ways you demonstrate leadership and all that, and try to see if there are similarities. So don't just go into the old document editing that just like that. Think of what is new, right? And then see if you can fill in the gaps. It works best like that. So there are more questions, but I see that hands are raised. So I'm just going to try and address the hands that are raised, and then I'll respond to the chat box. Ifechi will talk about attendance. Those of you asking about attendance. Tolu, you can ask your question. Those of you who have asked a question, you can drop your hand. Tolu, you can ask a question quickly.
Okay, thank you so much, Martins. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the whole session. So I just wanted to ask concerning
Tolu, I can't hear you if you're speaking.
Yes, I'm back. I just wanted to ask concerning professional courses, applying with professional courses in Chevening, because I've noticed that most people who drop in applications, they have things like economic inclusion, financial inclusion, MSc entrepreneurship, innovation, like humanity, high sounding names like that. I have this bias, and I just really want it to be cleared that maybe Chevening will prioritize people who have a much more humanity-tied course application than someone who is applying for a professional course. For example, I am applying for a marketing course because at the end of the day, I actually want to build a marketing agency that would help SMEs in Nigeria, as well as I also do youth skill development. And it feels like I feel like there's this bias that Chevening might want to favor someone who is their work is more tied towards having high sounding things like helping the poor or helping economic redevelopment, and I just really want to be clear of that bias and know, like, or is there a way I need to tie that I want to get a professional MSc, for something really good? Thank you.
Okay, let me pause this recording. Okay. In the chat box, I'm looking for questions. Some of you are asking about I think you're asking about the schedule for these classes. I think the schedule for classes have been shared on the WhatsApp group for those of you who have been onboarded, right? Maybe it will be reshared again. The presentation slides, Ifechi can share that with you guys. Okay, Ifechi can share that with you guys. Is there any questions I've not addressed? So if I have not answered your question or called you up, you can at this point unmute your mic and speak, right? Abdulaziz, are you trying to say something?
Yes, I have a question, sir.
Yes, please go on.
Yeah. So I wanted to confirm that for the schools, applying to the schools, universities of one choice, like, is it that we will send applications to those schools within the time frame we have, or after we have submitted the Chevening application?
Okay, yes, you can submit your Chevening application before you submit your school application, because admission for schools start to open in September, August, October, November, December, etc. So usually the Chevening scholarship opens much earlier. So you apply for Chevening first, right? So there are some people, even though it's an extreme case, who have applied for Chevening and then they did not apply for their courses yet until maybe like December or January. So it depends on the application window of the school. But if you know you cannot do multiple things at once, focus on the application for Chevening, right? So I usually advise people to submit the Chevening application first and then submit the school application. But those who can do two things at once, right? You can be doing both of them concurrently, right? Or be researching, but you first have to decide the schools while you're doing your application. So there are a lot of things that you would do, like the school, the course, why the course that will be much more contributive to your Chevening application. But yes, you can submit the Chevening application first before the school application, or you can submit both of them together. It really doesn't matter. Or you can be invited for interview before you submit the school application. It doesn't really matter. But the question is, if you do not get admission, OT law. All right.
Okay.
I have to
Can I
call
ask-
someone else. I have to call someone else
Okay,
to be
okay.
equitable. Vivian, you can speak.
Thanks, Martins, and thanks for the session and the insights. I needed a clarification. So I'm wondering, do we need to sort of humanize our essays? For example, I'm a consultant and I work with corporates for now. So the projects I do are for businesses, and what I wanted to focus on is when I come back, let's say, is to work with SMEs, but I haven't exactly worked with them for now. And when I'm in a project, when I lead a project, I'll be leading the project and maybe the people I'll interact with, which for now I'm at a junior role, so I'm not in a leadership position. So I was not so certain how I'm supposed to position my essays to show that I've been impacting people, or can I just go with the business side? Thank you.
Okay. How can you position yourself to show that you've been impacting people? Okay. Very important question. I think it's a very interesting question. I think the question connects to asking, I don't have an NGO, or my work is not an outreach-based work that interacts with people. It's very much desk side related or desk table crunchy. How do I communicate impact? So I think your question is, how do you communicate impact, and how do you connect that to your future career goals, right? If simple example, if I've worked as a volunteer, then I worked in a junior level role, and then I supported startups, or I've been working at the desk for a while, right? I have to show what the results of each of these things has been, right? The organization I've been a part of, did they grow as a result of the things I did, right? Did anything I do lead to any substantial growth? Do you know that as simple as saying, okay, let me give you a simple example. In a role not so long ago in my life, I met some interesting people, and then we were just basically chatting about a few things. And amongst them were like public healthcare professionals, business leaders from like organizations like Farm Access and M Pharma and 54 Gene that's no longer existing. 54 Gene died in 2021. It's a company. It died in 2021. I don't know what killed it. You can Google it. Right now, we had like a WhatsApp group for like African founders, blah blah blah. Then in that conversation, I invited the 10 of my physician friends to the group, and so far so good. We've been using, say, WhatsApp to like do simple technology discussions that are affecting Nigerians' healthcare. And from that place, people produce maybe articles like that are published in the Nigerian Health Watch, right? Do you know that that simple act of saying I invited maybe 10 of my colleagues to join the group, and then from there, they have access to premium health information for technology founders. And this has contributed to maybe the growth of their knowledge in the digital health information space. That simple thing does not show that I was the regional director or I was a heavy burden director in my company, but it shows that not only can I take initiative, I can use the simple things to create change, right? That's a very relevant example. And that example can show how you can use the very simple thing. So the thing here is, can you tell simply what impact each of your action has resulted into, right? Did you pioneer a conversation that resulted to growth in any dimension? Whether it's not a $10 million worth growth, did it lead to change in any degree? If you can do that, then you can say that you are studying this because you want to do this, right? But in the future, you like to do that. You can then connect that to whatever you want to do in the future. I hope that helps bring your thought together, Vivian.
Thank you very much. I'll try. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I see some hands, lots of hands are still raised. So let me call Chidozie. Chidozie, you can speak. Yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Your mic is muffled. I think your network is.
Hello. So, with respect to work experience.
Oh, I cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Chidozie, can you type in the chat box? Your mic is muffled.
The experience of 2 years. Does it include NYSC? That's for those in Nigeria.
Hello. What did you say? I heard
Hello,
2
can you
years,
hear
and
me?
then I heard NYS. I can hear you now. Great.
Yes, my question
you
is
said,
with regards to
does
work
it
experience, the
include?
minimum work experience for NY. Does it include NYSC here? Especially if your service here is already tailored towards the kind of work you want to do.
So the answer to that question is a yes. If your NYSC is year one, and you have another year experience, that makes it a minimum of 2. That's a minimum of 2. Remember, the goal is a minimum of 2, right? If you have just NYSC, which is 1, it is insufficient. But if you have NYSC plus something else, it's sufficient. So you can say that you can say NYSC, National Youth Service Corps. Those of you who are not in Nigeria, Nigeria has something called National Youth Service Corps, right? So you can see that your National Youth Service Corps year, right, was maybe a volunteer experience. Do you get? So what 1 year of volunteer experience? So NYSC is considered a volunteer experience. So that counts. So it counts as 1. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Chidozie. And next, I will call on, I think, Oluwadamilola. Is your hand raised again, or that's previously? Then Salokidin.
No, this is another Dami. This is
You said what?
another Damilola.
Oh, this is another Damilola. Okay, another Damilola. Please speak to me.
This is another Damilola. Yeah.
You can. Do you have a question to
All right. I
ask?
just want to ask if all the examples we. Yes, I do. I do. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. I want to ask if all the examples we should give in our essays, if I don't want to ask if they must be current, if we have to include current examples in our essays. Like, can we give examples in the past year, like in the past 1 year, or is it important that we add current examples in our essays?
Okay, to answer your question, the question is important that you add current example to your essay. How have you proved in the past, and how are you doing it now? So in my networking, I can say, in my final year, I did this and that. Then I did this in 2017, and I did this last year, and then this is what I'm doing now. So final year, 2017, last year, and now. Now is always important. Okay. I hope that answers the question, Damilola. Oluwatofumi, your hand is raised. Damilola, you can drop your hand. Who is asking? Salakodin?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You called me, right?
You can.
Okay. First of all, thank you for giving me a chance to ask a question. My question is, so in leadership and influence question, the answer, I mean the change we can affect, should be countrywide, or just leading a team or leading a project, which to organize an international event. Maybe an international arbitration week is enough. I mean, because I have some leadership experience, but they are not aimed to, affect the change across the country. So
Okay.
do you understand?
Yes, I get you.
Mhm.
So your leadership experience does not have to be national, okay? Your leadership experience can be in a small startup. It can be in a small company. It can be a volunteer leadership role. Do you get? So your experience can be in a volunteer role. It can be as an intern, right? It can also be a professional role. It can be a directorate role. It can be a founder role. Whatever experience you have where you demonstrated leadership, we just want to know. Sorry, not we. I'm not Chevening. Chevening just wants to know. Okay, through these roles, where you are currently working, did you do A, B, or C? What was your role in terms of leadership? What influence did you have? Did you lead anything? Did you influence anything? Did you change anything? Right? So it can be as basic as saying that, how do I say it? Okay. Now, imagine if I was working as a doctor in a hospital. Maybe a hospital sounds like it's very impactful. If I was working as a pharmacist or I had a chemist shop where I sold drugs, right? And then or maybe I was working online. I'm struggling to look for irrelevant examples. Now, if I'm leading product development for a small startup, what I can say is, in my role, right, or while working as a product development intern for a startup in digital health, right, I guided maybe a team of 4 people to avoid a costly mistake of building a company based on wrong assumptions about the telemedicine market in Nigeria, right? That is an example of change already. What that means is I should be able to tell how I stopped them from making that costly mistake. Now, the costly mistake here was I probably led user research, right, amongst maybe say 30 end users that resulted in the analysis of the findings. And from those findings, we developed like a tailored telemedicine app. And then we recruited 30 doctors in Nigeria to test the tool, right? And then maybe the project is now being funded or is not being funded, or we are trying to develop it further now. So that's a simple example of how you can talk about the simple things in your day-to-day life, right? Well, to me, that's
I
as
have
simple things in
another
day-to-day
follow-up
life.
question, if you allow.
You can ask one more.
Just quick question. So
Yeah.
I want to include 3 leadership examples. There are, I want to start with a simple one, and then the simple towards a bigger one. But the bigger project I led was, before the third one. I mean, I have ABC leadership experience. I want to put them ABC order, but the C1, actually the C1 happened before the B1. I mean the B experience. So should I follow the chronological order to put my leadership experience, or it is just enough to put in a way that I want?
And there should be a flow, right? I believe that it makes sense when there is a flow. All right, let me see how it has progressed. You could start from maybe the oldest example and work your way down to the most recent example, right? So the A could be the oldest example, the C example can be the current example, okay? The B could be example from last year, last 2 years, last 3 years, etc. However you want to do it, okay? So there should be a flow. Follow a flow.
Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. You're welcome. So I have 4 more persons, but I have 1 minute to respond to your questions. So I'm going to take 30 seconds of your questions. Ogechi, you can ask a question, then Kosis or Chiku, you ask, then Victory would ask, and then T would ask. So I hope those are all the people. Ogechi, quickly.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for the question. My question is actually in terms of networking. So now I actually have some networking experience, but the one I'm using, but I'm looking at it while you were talking, so it's kind of sounding odd to me. So I want to put it to you if I should go ahead and continue with that. So
No, you
actually,
can't put it to me right now. You know there will be essay
okay.
review time, but you can just ask me what question you want to ask from the essay.
Okay, so I actually like send a code mail to a PI, a principal investigator, and it actually led to her accepting me to do some certain things in a group she belongs to. So I want to use that as an example, like through the sending out code mails to her, sending email that I want to work with her, and she accepted as a form of networking experience.
Just a moment, I need to attend to another meeting. Just a moment. So to respond to you, you sent a code email and that resulted to change. That is fine. Right? The change is for you. The change is for you. Was it the mutual benefit for the both of you? Now, this is what I want you to think about in an example like that. Okay. Say that through that conversation, you became one of the members of maybe a group where you met some other people and then you contributed to so and so. So what did you contribute to as a result of that conversation, or after you joined the program, what was the end result? What was the end result for the person who led the program, or the person or the people or the company that had the program or that had the project? So you should be able to talk also about the results of joining that particular thing, not just the fact that, oh, because I sent a message to Ogechi on WhatsApp, she asked me to join a company, and then now I'm employed. Now, what have I done since I've been employed? So if I say now I'm employed, that's good. But what's the outcome of that employment, right? That is something that will be better as well. Do you get? Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I hope no problem. The next person is Kosiso Chukwu and T. Kosiso.
Good evening, sir. Sir, thank you for the section. Sure you can hear me?
Yes. Shay,
Okay.
I can hear you.
My question is based on the work experience. I started the registration. I was seeing like a minimum hour you can work in a year and the maximum. So I want to ask, like, I started working last year, January. In between, I started my NYSC. I combined it with my work. I was going for meat inspection in an abattoir. That was my PPA. And I was doing my work. Like, I would spend 3 hours in the abattoir, then I'll come back to the office and work. I don't know if I combine the two work experience, whether it will exceed, because after I added all the work experience, it was like 7,000 something. So I don't know whether the thing exceeded the maximum you can work in a year.
So this is it. The timeline of the work experience is important. You cannot talk about two work experience within the same period of time. So I cannot say between January 2019 to June 2019, I was working in two places. No. I can only work in one place at a time, right? So I'm either going to shift the date of one to the other before the other, right? That's something that you should do. But meanwhile, questions like work experience, questions like all of this you can resolve this on the platform. You can drop all of this on the WhatsApp group and they will respond to this. For those of you who are asking questions in the chat box that I cannot see at the moment, please don't hesitate to drop your questions on the WhatsApp group. And we are far behind time and we do not intend to keep you guys anymore. So I'm just going to take Victory quickly. Okay, no, I think Victory, you've spoken before. So let me call T. T, please.
I just had a small question.
Type your small question, Victory. T.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I want to ask that, okay, for the leadership essay, like most everything I want to write, like if I want to write 3 leadership experience, they must be like they must follow each other. Like it must be that this one is stopping at this point, then like continuity, like take for instance, I was once a leader for Cyber Safe Foundation, leading about 300 ladies in tech skills. Then aside from that, I also led in a GIS where I was teaching some intern and academic too. So is the 3 relating, or I should just pick one then talk about it extensively?
I cannot possibly imagine what those 3 are. Like, I like to see what exactly I'm responding to. So that is the kind of question you have to send to Ifechi, okay? Does that make sense? See.
Okay, okay.
Victory, did you type your question yet?
Not yet. I was hoping you'll call me.
Don't hope. I'm going to read a question in the chat box. Olukayode Toyosi is asking, can I write a statement like this in the chat box according to a 2022 update from the UK government? Okay, see that question, Kayode, I need to see the holistic thing you're trying to say with that statistic, right? I need to see the holistic statistic you're bringing forward. That should be in the essays. That will be reviewed in the essays. I can't respond to that question in isolation because it will be pulling out a fragment, and the response I give you will not be holistic, and I do not do things that are not holistic. Okay, but it's a good way to start, I presume. In the absence of further questions, Maureen, Ifechi or Sato, who else is here? You guys can come up. I think I've come to the end of my session with you.
Oh yes, thank you so much, Martins, for such an insightful presentation.
I think you're muted, Maureen.
Sorry, yeah. So I'm saying thank you so much for an insightful session, and everyone with questions, I think you could also ask in the group. Now that you're part of the bootcamp, we'll be able to address most of the questions there. The session was supposed to end. We are like 7 minutes past the session end time. But otherwise, if there's any question we missed, just drop it in the group. We are here to support, and we look forward to having most of you joining the Chevening Art Scholars for next year.
Okay, one more thing, Maureen. So there's an attendance for this session. Yes, so these sessions have attendance because we need to take stock of those who are attending classes and remove those who are not attending classes, etc., etc. So I'm going to drop the code for today's attendance. I'm going to type it in the chat box, and you are not supposed to share this on the WhatsApp group. The instructions I received from your administrators is that this code you should not send in the group. They said I should type this code, that you will fill a Google form. And when you fill this Google form, you put in the code, and this is the code that shows that you attended to this class, because nowhere else would you have gotten the code apart from being into this class at the end. So yes, that is the code for today's class, guys. CAB 030. CAB 030. That is the code for today's class. I think I will I'll ask Maureen to send the link to the WhatsApp group. Okay. So the link to fill the form will be on the WhatsApp group. Please take note of that particular code. All right. I think that is it from my end of the equation.
Yeah, and if you could switch on your video, we take one screenshot of the attendance if you're in a comfortable place. I think it's only Martin and I who are willing to share our screenshots, to share our faces with you guys.
I'm going to allow them now. You are allowed to turn on your videos. Your video has been allowed. I'm seeing lots of interesting faces. Maureen, should we smile or should we say cheese? What are we supposed to do? Your mic is muted, Maureen. Maureen,
People are
mic-
already smiling. People are already
okay.
smiling.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice day and all the best in your applications.
All right.
Thank you.